and enthusiasm.
So
Grant
today
us
the
the
session we
grace
are
to
going to
use our
handle is
knowledge
first
for the
on
good
science
of us
laboratory.
and others.
So what the
All these
significance of
we pray
science
in your
laboratory
mighty
in
name.
science teaching,
Amen.
and this topic will be discussed
Pledge.
by
India is
Georgia.
my country.
I invite Georgia Mariam
All
Geo
Indians
for
are my brothers
representation
and
of this
sisters.
team.
I love my country and I am proud
First
of
of all,
its
we have a one
rich
second.
and varied
Before that, we have
heritage.
a prayer session. Nikhil.
I shall always try
After that,
to
Georgia will take up the session.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit right with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
And thank you for the innumerable blessings you have given us. Thank you for giving us a mind with strength and a heart with love. Thank you for supporting to continue our life amidst the pandemic had resulted a lot of changes in our lives. We are sorry whenever we feel we are left out. Father, help us stay focused in our life. When situations becomes challenging, grant us the gift of courage and enthusiasm. Grant us the grace to use our knowledge for the good of us and others. All these we pray in your mighty name. Amen.
pledge. India is my country. All Indians are my brothers and sisters. I love my country and I am proud of its rich and varied heritage. I shall always try to be worthy of it. I shall give respect to my parents, teachers, and all elders and treat everyone with courtesy. To my country and my people, I pledge my devotion. In their well being and prosperity alone lies my happiness. Jai Hind.
Welcome, Georgia, for the session.
Good morning, teacher, and my dear friends. Today I am going to take a class about the significance of science laboratory. Let me share my screen. Okay, is it visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So before moving towards the significance of science laboratory, we must know what a laboratory is. So we all know we will call laboratory as informally as lab. It is a facility or a place which provides controlled conditions or requirements to carry out a scientific or technological research or experiment. So in order to carry out a scientific or technological researches, we should have certain requirements, and laboratory it provides that specific requirements and controlled conditions to carry out those experiments. So different subjects or different field of study will be having different requirements to carry out their studies or researches, and their requirements will be different. So based on the requirements, these laboratory will be set up. For example, a science laboratory might be having a particle accelerator or a vacuum chamber, while a metallurgy laboratory will be having apparatus which is used for casting or refining metals. Likewise, a chemist or a biologist will be using a wet laboratory, since their studies and researches will be using acid solutions and all. There, at the same time, a psychologist laboratory will be having a one-way mirror or a hidden camera, since they are studying about the behavior. So based on the requirements or their mode of study, the requirements for their experiments will be different. So laboratory will be set up based on those experiments. So science, we can find a science library even in all places like schools, universities, in industries, in government, military facilities, even in ships or spacecraft. Everywhere you can see scientific laboratory. Next, let's see what is the importance of a science lab in schools. So we all know that science is entirely different from any other field of study or any other subjects. So in order to make the science study more effective, one have to understand its concept from beyond the textbook knowledge or a conventional classroom teaching. So science must be studied. The concept of this concept must be studied from beyond a textbook reading or a conventional classroom teaching. So in order to make the science effective, science teaching and learning effective, it should involve seeing, handling and manipulating the real objects and materials. That means if the students is directly interacting with the materials, and they can compare the data they have collected from the book and the conventional study, conventional classroom teaching, and therefore they will get a more understanding about the concept. The science laboratory or lab equipments will allow the students to interact directly with the data they have gathered from the textbook or a conventional classroom teaching, and they will be having a more understanding about the concept or the theory they have studied, because they are getting a first hand experience through these experiments, because they are performing experiments on their own and reaching at a result. As a result, they will be having a better understanding about the concept. So it is the one of the importance of laboratory works or the experiments, because they will be having a first hand learning experience about that concept, and the concept will be understand more. So in laboratory, the students will be making use of models, experiments, and thereby understanding different scientific theories and concepts. So by using the science laboratory, both learning and teaching is becoming easier for teachers and students. So science learning and teaching is becoming more easier by using all these kinds of science experiments, laboratories, etc. So the school have to provide the science laboratory with latest supplements or equipments, thereby making the science more interesting and effective towards the students. So as a result, the students will be encouraged to bring significant contributions in the field of science. So by increasing science interest in students, they will be having they will bring significant contributions in the field of science. So this is the importance of why we need a science laboratory in schools, because it increases the curiosity of the students or the interest of the students in learning science and the concepts. So next we are going to look why this laboratory work is important, or what is the need of having laboratory works. So first one is it provide a permanent knowledge to the students, and this knowledge will be retained by the students for a longer period of time. So the knowledge that we acquire from a book or a conventional classroom teaching will be persistent only for a small period of time. In the case if the concept is studied through a laboratory work or through experiments, that knowledge will be persistent in the student's mind for a long period of time. So that it says that it provides a permanent knowledge about a concept. Second one, it makes the students familiar about the equipments and the terminologies that is used in the science. We know that in science there are many equipments or many terminologies. So by making use of the laboratory work, it will make the student familiar about the functioning of those equipments, the terminologies that we use in science. The next one is it helps the students to understand the underlying principles or theories behind the experimental techniques and test the theoretical knowledge with the real data. So since the students is carrying out experiment on their own and reaching at a result, it makes the students more understanding about the theories and principle, and it enables the students to understand the applicability and the limitations of a theory. So next one is it develop, as we said earlier, it develop a kind of scientific attitude and interest in the science among the students, and thereby they can have they will give a significant contribution to the field of science. Next, it developed a habit of tackling any problem by scientific method in systematic and organized way. So, while carrying out an experiment, a student is following some kind of systematic way to reach at a result. So, by doing all these kind of experiments, it will create a habit of solving the problem in a systematic way. So next is they provide a self-dependence or self-reliance among the students. Since they are doing all these experiments by their own, they are reaching at the result, it will create some kind of sense of self-dependence and self-reliance. The next is it develop a curiosity in the minds of the children. So what will be the result? So they will be curious about the concepts or the theories in science. So they will be developing a curiosity in the minds of young children. So by doing all this laboratory work, we are actually training the students to carry out a specific experimental methods or an experiment. Thereby, it helps the students to apply this kind of experimental knowledge for their further studies or for their further future. So these are the importance of laboratory work, or this is the reason why we need laboratory work. First, it provides permanent knowledge. Second, it makes the students familiar about the equipments and the terminologies that we use in science, and it helps the students to have a proper understanding about the underlying principles or the theories, and helps them to enable them to understand the applicability and the limitations of a theory. At the same time, it develops scientific attitude and also develop a habit of tackling or solving the problem in a systematic way. It also develops self-dependence and self-reliance. So all these are the importance of the why we need laboratory work. Next, let's see the materials that are available in laboratory. So we are all familiar about those materials that we are available in laboratory. So these are the materials we can find in laboratory. The first one is the observation aids. So observation aids means these are the apparatus which is used to measure the or used to measure mass, length, time. So the apparatus which is used to measure mass, length, time will be coming under observation aids. For example, chemical balance, meter scale, stopwatch. I'm sure that all are familiar with all these kind of apparatus. So all these apparatus which is used to measure mass, length, time will be coming under observation aids. Next one is controlled aids. So this involves apparatus which is used to measure temperature, pressure, or these are the apparatus which are associated with the phenomena like temperature, pressure, volume. For example, barometer, Boyle's law apparatus. These apparatus will be coming under controlled aids. Next one is glassware. So all are aware about the glasswares because we are using this in everyday laboratory. We are using that is glass jars, test tubes, funnels, pipette. Every apparatus which is made of glass will be coming under glasswares. Then next is ancillary wares. These are the supporting instruments like stands, clamps. So in order to place pipette and burette, we'll be having stand in our laboratory. So all these equipments will be coming under ancillary wares. So materials, it means the consumable materials. That means the chemicals or acids, alcohols, those things that get consumed while carrying out an experiments will be coming under these materials like chemical reagents, specimens, consumable materials, etc. The next is teaching aids. So in a laboratory, they will be having a blackboard or a chart, model. So all these things will be coming under teaching aids. So next one is tool. Tool, it is an equipment which is used to repair or maintain apparatus. If there is any damages to the apparatus, there are certain tools to repair them. They will be coming under tools. So these are the commonly found materials in laboratory, that is observation aids, control aids, glasswares, ancillary wares, materials, teaching aids, and tools. So I hope you understand about the materials available. Next, let's look the registers in laboratory. So in laboratory there are different kinds of apparatus. So it is very important to have a proper maintenance or a proper record about all these materials and apparatus in laboratory. So it is one of the most important duty of a teacher to maintain a proper record about all these apparatus. So what our apparatus will be there, if there is any damage it will be recorded. So separate records or separate stock registers will be maintained for both consumable or non-consumable items or permanent items, glass articles. So separate stock registers will be there to maintain a proper record about all these apparatus. So last slide we discussed about the different apparatus. So these record about these apparatus will be stocked or registered separately in different stock registers. So there are mainly 5 registers that we can find in a laboratory or which is maintained in a laboratory, that is permanent stock register, breakable stock register, consumable stock register, order register and requirement register. So these are the mostly found registers that we used in laboratory. So each will be having different functions or different apparatus details will be recorded in these registers. Let's look what are they. The first one is permanent stock register. So this register include the informations about non-breakable or non-consumable articles. For example, the details about test tube racks, wood and how many of them are there. Like that way, the informations about non-breakable and non-consumable materials will be recorded in permanent stock register. For example, non-consumable materials like example test tube rack, wooden stand, microscope, telescope. So information about all these kinds will be recorded in permanent stock registers, and these are the specimens that we can find in a permanent stock register. So this register is to used to to keep record about the non-breakable and non-consumable materials. The next one is breakable stock register. So as the name says, it is used to have to keep record about the glasswares like flasks, test tubes, beakers, pipettes, burettes, funnels, etc. So if there is any breakage for them, they all will be recorded in this register. So how it is break. So all these informations will be recorded in breakable stock register. It is used to have to keep record about glasswares like test tubes, flasks, etc. The next one is consumable stock register. So this register includes the information about chemicals or fluids that we consumed while carrying out an experiment like acids, alcohols, distilled water, magnesium wire, etc. So all the informations about these consumable materials will be recorded in consumable stock registers, and this is a specimen that we can see in a consumable stock register. So we said that different registers are recorded for different like consumable, non-consumable, they will be having different registers. So consumable material details will be recorded in consumable stock register. The next one is order register. So if you want to purchase a new apparatus or chemical, that details will be written in an order register. So this is the order register, the specimens that we can find in order register. If you have to buy any chemicals or any apparatus, you can record it in this register. The next one is the requirement register. So if you have any suggestions for or if you want any need of new resources for a science laboratory, you can include in this register. Or if there is any chemical which is to be purchased for immediate use, that kinds of informations can be written in the requirement registers. So these are the 5 mainly found registers in laboratory: permanent stock register, breakable stock register, consumable stock register, order register and requirement register. So I hope you are clear about these different types of registers. Next, while talking about the significance of laboratory or about the materials found, you should be aware about the accidents and the first aids that should be provided in a laboratory. So in laboratory, accidents may happen. So you should have a proper first aid kit. So these are the medicines that should be available in a first aid kit in laboratory. That is acetic acid, bandages, carbolic acid, cotton dressing gauze, eyedropper, forceps, glycerin, milk of magnesia, plaster, plucker or scissors, sodium carbonate, tincture, iodine, Vaseline. So these are the medicines which should be available in a laboratory in their first aid, because accidents are can happen in a laboratory while carrying out an experiment. So or other, you should also display a chart depicting the possible accidents that can carry out in a laboratory, or that can happen in a laboratory, and what are the remedies we can use to for this kind of accidents. Let's check what are the common accidents and the first aid or a remedy that can use for these accidents. The first one is wound. So if there is any breaking of a glass vase, there will be possible having a wound. So for that we are using a first aid by applying cotton dipped in a tincture iodine, by applying this wound with tincture iodine, cotton dipped in tincture iodine. The next one is burns from fires. For that we can cover that portion with linen dipped in Vaseline. So these are the first aids that can use in laboratory. If there is any burns happen from fires, can cover that portion with linen dipped in Vaseline. Next one is burns from acids. So you have to wash that area with plenty of water and can apply 1% of sodium bicarbonate solutions. The next one is burns from alkalis. So you can wash that area with, if there is any burn from acid or alkalis, the first thing you have to do is to wash that area with completely with plenty of water. And if it is a burn from alkali, then you can add weak vinegar or lime juice. So next one is the burn from phosphorus. You can wash that area with water and then cover with a cotton dipped in silver nitrates. So these are the first aid that can be used if any kind of burns are is caused from fire, acid, alkalis or phosphorus. The next one is injury in eye. So it is very dangerous. If there is happening any injuries, you have to immediately dealt it with the doctor. If acid is happen to splash into your eyes, the first thing you have to wash your eye, or you have to place your eye open and closed under the water, and should be washed with 15% of sodium bicarbonate solution. So if electric shock, because in a laboratory we are using some kind of electrical appliances, so there will be a chance of having an electric shock. So if you face such kind of situation, you first thing you have to do is to switch off all the electric supply, and then you have to beat that person who got shocked with a wooden stick, and then you have to admit him to the hospital. So these are the common accidents that we can find in laboratory, and these are the first aids that can, or remedies you can use for these accidents. The next one is the safety rules. So there are general safety rules that you have to follow in the laboratory. So let's look what are the rules. The first one is you have to know the location of laboratory safety showers, wash stations or fire extinguishing. If there is any kind of fires and all, you should be aware about the safety showers, wash stations or fire extinguishers that are available near your laboratory. And safety equipments must be located in the hallway near the laboratory entrance. So it is the first rule. You have to place safety equipments near the entrance of the laboratory. Next one is you should be aware about the emergency exit routes. So if there is any kind of fires or accident, you should be, the first one, you have to get out of the laboratory. So you should be aware about the emergency exit routes. Second one is you have to avoid the direct contact, eye contact or skin. The chemical should not have a direct contact with the skin or eye contact. So you should have to take precautions in order to avoid to have to avoid such kinds of contact. Then you have to minimize the all kind of chemical exposure. So there will be chemical exposures, but you have to minimize all these kinds of chemical exposures. Then then you have to assume that all the chemicals of unknown toxicity are highly toxic. So there are certain chemicals whose toxicity is not known. So you should assume that it is of highly toxic, and you have to handle with very care. And you have to post warning signs if there is any hazardous materials or equipments placed. You should post a warning sign showing that there's some kind of hazardous materials. So you should be careful about that. So next one is you should avoid, it is one of the most commonly found thing, that is you should avoid distracting or startling person who is working in a laboratory. You should not disturb a person who is carrying out an experiment, because all their concentration will be around the experiment, and if you are distracting them, they will get started and there will be a splashing of chemical or any other kind of accident. So should not distract or startle a person who is working in the laboratory. Next, you have to use the equipment only for that designated purpose. So an equipment will be having a proper purpose, so that equipment must be only used for that purpose. You should not be using for the any other kind of purposes. So next, you have to combine the reagents in their appropriate order. So while you are dealing with chemicals, their order will be there. A specific order will be there for their addition, for combining these reagents. So that proper order should be maintained. For example, the acid should be added towards water, not water to acid. So these are the general rules we have to find. Next is, you should not leave containers of chemicals open. So the students will be having a great tendency to use the chemical and just place that container open. You should not leave that container of chemicals open. Then the all containers must be appropriate, should have an appropriate label. So names of the chemicals must be appropriately labeled in that bottle. If there is any kind of unlabeled chemicals, you should not use, because you are not fair, you are not you do not know whether that chemical is you are taking is right or not, because there is no label. So you should only use the labeled chemicals. Then you should not taste or intentionally sniff the chemical. So you should not sniff, because the vapors may be harmful for your body. So you should not taste or intentionally sniff the chemicals. Then you have to wash the exposed areas of the skin prior to leaving the laboratory, because we are handling with chemicals. So there will be some kind of chemicals in your hand. So before leaving the laboratory, you have to wash your hands clearly, thoroughly with water, because if you are after laboratory, if you are eating or drinking something, there will be chance to consume some chemicals. So you have to wash the exposed areas of the skins with water before leaving the laboratory. So long hairs and long clothings must be pulled back. So in order to avoid any kind of entanglement or any fire capture, so you have to pull up your long hairs and loose clothing while entering the laboratory. And you should not use any kind of contact lens while using any kind of hazardous chemicals. And also you should wear the safety glasses. Laboratory safety glasses or goggles must be worn while carrying out a reaction, because there may be a chance of splashing the chemicals towards the eye. So in order to avoid that, you can use laboratory glasses or goggles. And you can also use covered shoes in order to avoid the spilling of chemicals into your feet and all. You can use covered shoes. And also you should not wear synthetic fiber clothes, because if you are working with any flammable liquids or or any fire, it will melt that material, and there is a chance to stick that material into your exposed skin. So you should not wear any kind of synthetic fibers while carrying out experiments in the laboratory. And also you can along with the safety goggles, you can also use laboratory coats in order to avoid such kind of situation. And also, after using this, laboratory coat should be carried out of the laboratory. It should not be placed in a break room or office, because there is a chance of spreading contaminants to other areas. So these are the general safety rules that a person have to follow in a laboratory. And that's all about the topic. I hope everyone understood. Thank you.
Very good, Georgia. I think all of you understood about laboratory. Do you got? You have to
Yes,
note
ma'am.
these points when you are discussing about laboratory. Take out these points. That is, as a science teacher, you have to know how to construct a science laboratory. If when you are going to take charge in any school, and a teacher, headmaster or administrator asks you to prepare a laboratory by yourself, you have to know how to construct a laboratory. So that's the important thing that you have to note while you are learning about science lab. So you have to note about the important equipments, already Georgia discussed, important chemicals, infrastructure, important documents, safety rules, first aid kit. So all these things have to be noted. Along with that, two other points are also, as we all know about that, laboratory, that is very indispensable part when you are discussing about science instruction. And it is an excellent tool for every science teacher for teaching. So, but what about our experience as a science student about laboratory? Is it a learning space for us or a resting space for us? Is it a murmuring space for us? എത്ര പേര് ലാബ് പീരീഡ് ഉണ്ട് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോ പുതിയ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യാലോ, പുതിയ എക്സ്പെരിമെന്റ് ചെയ്യാലോ, പുതിയ കെമിക്കൽസ് പരിചയപ്പെടാലോ എന്നൊക്കെ വിചാരിച്ച എത്ര പേരുണ്ട്? ഉച്ച കഴിഞ്ഞ് ലാബാടോ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ എത്ര പേരുണ്ട് സന്തോഷത്തോടെ? നമുക്കൊരു ഭയങ്കര ഒരു ഇൻഡ്യൂസിയാസം ആയിരുന്നു. എന്റെ അനുഭവം അങ്ങനെയായിരുന്നു. നിങ്ങളുടെ അനുഭവം എത്ര പേരുണ്ട്? പുതിയ എക്സ്പെരിമെന്റ്സ് പഠിക്കാനുള്ള ആഗ്രഹത്തിന്റെ പുറത്ത് ലാബിൽ പോയ എത്ര പേരുണ്ട്? ഞാൻ അങ്ങനെ പോയെന്ന് ഉറക്കെ പറയണ്ട, മെസ്സിൽ ടെക്സ്റ്റിൽ ഇട്ടാലും മതി. പഠിക്കണം, പുതിയ എക്സ്പെരിമെന്റ് പഠിക്കണം. ഉറക്കെ പറയാൻ കൂടെ ആരുമില്ലേ? അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ടെസ്റ്റിൽ ഇടാനും ആരുമില്ലേ? നിങ്ങളെല്ലാം പുതിയ എക്സ്പെരിമെന്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ആഗ്രഹിച്ചു പോയവരാണ്. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവരോ? എല്ലാരും എനിക്ക് വയ്യ, നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഭയങ്കര സംഭവമാണ് കേട്ടോ. എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ലല്ലോ എന്നുള്ളൊരു വിഷമമുണ്ട് നിങ്ങളുടെ ആരുടെയും മുഖം. ഓക്കെ, സോ ലബോറട്ടറി എപ്പോഴും ഒരു ലേണിംഗ് സ്പേസ് ആയിരിക്കണം. അപ്പൊ ഇതിനകത്ത് ഒന്ന് രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ആഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, ഒന്ന് ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ ആണ്. നിങ്ങളോട് ഒരു വ്യക്തി പിന്നെ ലാബ് കൺസ്ട്രക്ട് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ആവശ്യപ്പെട്ടാൽ നിങ്ങൾ അതിൽ എന്തെല്ലാം കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്? നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം, ഓൾറെഡി ഇപ്പം ജോർജിയ പറഞ്ഞതിൽ തന്നെ വി ഗോട്ട് സം പോയിന്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് in every lab there is a doing area or a workspace is there where teacher when somebody is thinking about a lab, two things must come to their mind. One is shelf with chemicals, some equipments, table with the teacher, and our working space, that is some demonstration tables and all that. That is our working space. This will come to our mind. I don't know about other universities. This is what in my mind, or those who completed their PG from Kerala University is having. I don't know about other universities. But when you are going to construct a lab, you must remember that this is the most limited infrastructure facilities you can provide to your student. Most limited. When you are constructing a lab, you must have something additions like yes, there is a doing space, or you can say workspace for students. There must be an exhibition phase, or exhibition space in Davanam, where the usually teachers are doing along with the students. That the teacher will come and stand along with us, and teacher will demonstrate the experiment first time for us with the help of some of the selected students, and we are going to repeat that. That's the usual way of doing science. But this is not the correct way. There must be an exhibition space which is really visible to all the students who are there in the lab. So that must be there. There must be a digital museum. There must be dark room. There is a dark room in some space. In some lab, then there must be a demonstration space. That is, in this demonstration space or the exhibition space, the teacher is really performing. The difference between exhibition space and demonstration space is in the exhibition space, if the students are standing in their own space in the lab, we know that places are allotted for each science student in a lab. This is your position, your belongings have to be stored here. And students are sitting in that particular place, and teacher is standing in another position which is really visible for all the students, and teacher is performing the experiment, and the student can follow up, or the student can do it parallelly. That is the exhibition space. But in demonstration space, the students are just observing what the teacher is doing, so it may be a very small space. So such a space must be there. And another space is that what we have now. And the another type is the project space. This project space is really opened all the time for the students, that still you are completing your project in the PG or in the UG, you are really free to work whenever you have time. But it is not possible because our lab is not opened always in our universities. But usually that's another way in which we can use lab. Another one is every lab must possess a library. How many lab have library? Then along with that, there must be a creative space. There must be creative space means you already learned about improvised states in the last sem. So this creative space provides some science kits or something like that. And the students are really free. This is about the school students, not about UG or PG. This is for school students. They are providing science kit there, and the students are really free to do the experiments by themselves. That surely develop their skills. So that space is called creative space. Government is having some hubs like that, just as a part of planetarium. There is an innovative hub. How many of you visited innovative hub in planetarium? Do any of you are exposed to that part? You may have seen the astro part of planetarium. How many of you visited the innovative hub? Have to give an answer. Okay. So, okay. So, anybody visited? Anybody have any information about? No one know about it. So there is an innovative hub which really gives importance to all, even the coding, coding Python, Scratch, all this coding also. So they are as part of that. That is the robotics, you know that. So in this innovative hub, they have the exposure to robotics also, not only science, physics, or chemistry in planetarium. So when you are going to become a teacher and you are getting a chance to construct a lab in your school, keep in mind all these things. And the another one which I want to give a information is about the first aid kit that is already discussed by Georgia. The thing is, if somebody when starting an lab, it's an important urgent requirement is that you must have a first aid kit, and we will buy one, but we do not know how to use it. That's the other thing. So you must know how to use the first aid kit, because you are the charge of the laboratory in your school. So it's your responsibility. So take care as a science teacher that it's the responsibility of every science teacher that the students must be well aware about the science laboratory. And only if you are making the laboratory as part of your science teaching, you will remain in the mind of the teachers, remain in the mind of the students as a teacher. Otherwise, you will become just the same as any of other arts or language teachers. And science is not a subject that can be taught in that way. So only if you are using science lab in my experience is also like that. When there was one teacher in for my son who was always teaching in science lab, his physics classes, he likes him very much because sir was really teaching him something. Before that and after that also he is having a science teachers. But only when that sir took him to the whole class to the science lab and taught them physics using science lab, then only they understand that how much significant is the subject, how much interesting is the subject. So as a science teacher is our real responsibility. So I think Greeshma, is 20 minutes enough for you?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, so now we are coming to the next topic by Greeshma, and it's again another very interesting topic, that is field trip. Okay, Greeshma, please take over.
Audible, Anu.
Yes.
Good morning, teacher and my dear friends. Today I have to present the topic about the values of field trips. Before going to discuss about the values of field trips, we have to know that we have to know about what is field trip. It is defined as an educational procedure by which the students obtain first-hand information by observing places, objects, phenomena, activities, and processes in their natural setting to further learning. First-hand information, which means direct experience. So we get the direct experience of places, objects, activities, phenomena through field trips, in which we can experience them by our multisensory organs like see, hear, touch, etc. So we can say that it is a natural way to further learning beyond the walls of classroom. So next we are going to discuss about the values of field trips. First point is it provides an opportunity in learning attitudes and positive values like cooperation, discipline, etc. We can develop the moral values, related attitude or behavior through field trips like sharing, cooperating, discipline, etc. And the next point is they correlate and blend school life with the outside world, providing direct touch with person and with community situations. It can show the combined effect of school life and real life, which means it's an uh, application level of experience. Next point, it provides opportunity in learning and acquiring skills in observation, communication, critical thinking, and social skills. It is very important to have a good communication skill to withstand in our society. So it provides the skills about the observation, communication, etc. Next point is students develop a better understanding of the etiological factors of the disease. Etiological factors means causes of disease. That is, sometimes students face a lot of health related issues, illness, whenever we are going to outside. So we can understand etiological factors of the diseases. Next slide. Next point is supplements and enriches the classroom teaching. It enhances the classroom teaching and it provides an additional or extra experiences. And next point is it stimulates interest in nature and learning. It is like motivation to our interest because interest is the basic thing for our for anything to do anything to do. So it stimulates interest in nature and learning. Um, it interacts with the nature. And next point is correlates the classroom life with the outside world. As we already discussed about the points. Next point, it provides opportunity to consider individual and group participants in the natural social conditions. As we know, we are humans, so we are different. We are all different in different characters. So we have to balance the behavior or nature when we are in a group. So it provides an opportunity to solve these problems when we are in a group. Georgia, next slide. Okay, next to help the bridge the gap between education and hands-on experience. We can do within a classroom, but we have to learn how is the outside world or beyond the sky. What happens the beyond the sky? So it helps the bridge gap between education and hands-on experience. So because we get the direct experience through the field trips. Next, children can learn more about the world and how to interact with others when they leave the sheltered environment of the classroom. It provides a lot of experience for the students with different circumstances. And next, it provides relaxed to mind and entertainment for students. As we know, field trips are very friendly and very uh, uh, relaxful experience. So it provides relax to our mind. Next slide. It arouse interest and vitalize insertions, thereby providing motivation. Through this direct experience, we get the motivation for the innovative things to do and see. Next point is create spirit of scientific inquiry. It is very important point to for a science student because we get a enthusiasm or we get a scientific curiosity to observe such different phenomena and next point is it develops better social awareness. It is also a very important point. Then next point, it will promote the development in knowledge and emotion skills. These skills are very important for students. So it provides an opportunity to develop enhance their skills. Uh, okay, thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Okay, I think all of you went for breakfast, right? Okay. Now, Greeshma discussed about the field trips and its significance. Well, you have to learn. Good, Greeshma. Appreciating you for that. You have to know how to conduct a field trip. That's very important. Just I'm giving some instructions for that. When you are thinking about a field trip never be an pleasure trip. There is some differences between field trip and pleasure trip, right? So that's why it's always called field trip. We are not calling field trip a picnic. Okay, picnic and field trip. The difference is field trip is really must be curriculum oriented, experience focused. That's very important. Otherwise, there is no meaning in conducting a one-day program to go somewhere. So it must be curriculum oriented and experience focused, and we must take care about time, effort, and money. We are not free to spend as much time, as much effort, or as much money for a field trip. It must be limited. These are some things to be kept in mind when we are planning a field trip. And every field trip must enhance the curriculum. In one way or other, it must correlating to the curriculum, must give some new experiences which we cannot get in another way, and must give some team building. So these are some other things to be clear. And major, when we are saying about a field trip, there must be 5 steps like planning, preparing, execution, follow-up, evaluation. These are the 5 steps to be followed when we are thinking about a field trip. Planning, preparation, execution, follow-up, and evaluation. You can understand all these things because you know how to, you already gone as a student, you went for so much of many field trips maybe, but as a teacher, you have to conduct a field trip. That's most important. That is, planning means many things. That is, first is why we are going. We have to think about it. Based on that, only you can select one place. When to go, how to go. All these are linked with this particular phase, planning. That is economy of, you may have some 50 students in your class of different economic background. If we are not providing the free trip, we have to take care about all the economic stability. So we have to select such a place that is really affordable for all the students in our class. So that's really very difficult, but we have to. That is planning. And selecting a location, selecting a mode of transport, selecting the food, all these are, all these are really involved in this. But the great limitation is finance. And we have to take care about this finance, and we have to plan. Next stage is about preparation. In preparation phase, you have to talk to the principal and how to get the permission. Some teachers already visit the site before they take the students, and then only they finalize the location. Because we are going with 50 students. Maybe you may have some support from other teachers or from some assistants, but that never means that you are the responsible person. So some teachers will do the prior visit to the place. So that's really more safe. So that confirms our safety, or confirms that our arrangements are more good, systematic. And then we had to select one time. After that, we have to confirm the safety measures we are taking, like even the medical things also, because 50 students, they may have some medical requirements also. We have to consider that also. Then what you have to do is you have to send a letter to the parent asking permission why we are conducting the trip, the destination, what all we are going to do there. When we are returning back, do they have to send some food items, or what all things they have to take? So this is a letter or the instruction the teacher is sending through the principal with a sign from the principal to the parents. Then the teacher have to keep each and every record in a file, because if anything happens, the teacher must have a record that they have done everything systematically. They must keep the signed permission letters. They had to get the permission from the principal, that letter, all the medical things you have done, any along with that emergency numbers of the students, if any need, money, all this you have to take care. And you must have a file of all these things and take care of all that before you go on to the field trip. And you must have some alternate arrangements also. If you are going to a very long place, a very very long sport, make some alternate arrangements for staying, if you're staying there. And it's always better if you are arranging field trip with the small students, especially the students below 7th standard. It's better if you are taking parent volunteers with you. Like any of your parents who are willing to come with us, they are free to come. That make your role more safe. So parent volunteers, especially ladies, gents also in some cases. You can take their help also, or you can take some student teachers. If some BEd trainees are there with you, you can take them also with you. So another one is keep the attendance of the student who are coming and time, all that. And the most important thing is you have to make the students understand that why they are going. How much important is the discipline throughout the journey. Then only their behavior throughout the journey. Then only we can manage such a long students group by ourselves in a journey. So all this we have to take care when we are planning a field trip. So I'm not giving tension to you thinking about this. I'm doing a great job. Teachers' job are always like that. A great responsibility we have, and we are ready to do that also. The students are always very happy that we are providing such facilities to the students which they are not getting from anywhere